Holy crap. Didn't really see any no sound. Wow. I've been talking this whole time with no sound. 15 minutes in. That was really bad. Sorry about that, folks. All right, now we're sound. All right, we're getting going here. We're getting going. I threw some questions on the front end. I'm going to edit this audio to just not waste your guys' time for the audio. Apologies for those of you sticking this long with the no sound. Apologies. I always mute it as a safety and then forget to take it off. Trying to get these things. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sick here. Crazy week. Been sick. But we're going to get to... Thankfully, I only answered a couple questions there, thankfully. And the other ones were kind of self-explanatory. We had my guy, Alvin Yakitori, touching on my guy, Aaron Bronstetter's monologue, which I shared at Dan Tom MMA, of course, there. And pretty much just being, we're going to get into the UFC Vegas 260 recap. We're going to try to brush through everything now real quick that I wasted like 15 minutes off the top. But basically, it was a great monologue on why to be grateful, even when our content creators come in with no sound, because the fighters, the ones who actually count at the end of the day, whether they're suffering like crazy cuts like Hobocop or Song Yadong, which I was flashing some of those song questions on the chat. Man, a lot is at risk. I quoted one of my favorites. Davey Havoc from AFI from my teenage years there. I singe my skin, but it heals my heart, and with glowing pride I'll wear my scars. It's definitely a optimistic way to look at it, but man, these are some real scars that these guys are wearing, right? They're not necessarily the prettiest, and maybe they're not the best reminders, right? If they lost these fights. So yeah, much respect to the fighters. Shouts to my guy Alvin Yakitori, who I'll throw back on here, and appreciate the hardcores of you guys sticking on, especially those of you who had to watch. Can probably put another reminder. But I'm glad you guys got the questions, and I should have fast forwarded and saw all the no sounds. So, anyways, appreciate you guys. Got Ramundo Martin there. Thanks, my man Ramundo. Got MMA Junkie Radio alum in the chat. Of course, we got my guys Jimmy Kudo, Ghost, who I already highlighted earlier. My guy James Kendrick. Jin Karasu, of course. RJ Bertle. Appreciate you. All right, guys. Let's go. Yeah, pretty much the update's done. Shouts to Aaron. Shouts to my guy Alvin. Yeah, been sick this week. Just a bit under the weather, and just out of courtesy, trying to stay out of the gym. I was able to hit the seminar earlier this week, but something just came on, and from Tuesday on, which sucks because Tuesday and Thursdays are sparring. You guys know I got my ass kicked pretty thoroughly last week, and even though we try to go away from old school mentalities, we talk about the costs and trying to be aware of head trauma and stuff. Part of it's not just showing up and being able to take it and get through, phrasing, but it's also showing up the next practice and the next week, showing that you didn't get discouraged. So I really feel like I dropped the ball like that this week. I dropped the ball on this show with the audio, so I'm really beating myself up this week. So hopefully we'll push on to more positive, but thank you guys for being there, being positive. Thanks for the help as far as the mental mindset references, as far as literature to read up on, to tactical stuff. Shout out to my guy Ryan Wagner, who I shouted out while I was muted, one of the best martial arts analysts at Ryan Wag MMA, when he's being serious, of course, pointed me in the right direction of some excellent southpaw Muay Thai fighters like Siddhachai, the more modern, or to the more 90s Muay Thai fighters like Mathi. So probably mispronounced that, but it's been a pleasure to watch, and very helpful. Got all hyphy last night, just shadow boxing, and probably should have layered up and been resting more, because I'm still not fully better today. Wonder why. But yeah, man, thank you guys there. Was really cool seeing my guy Tommy to finish out these shouts. I didn't get to see my guy Matt Joya from the Say Os Again podcast, one of the best jiu-jitsu podcasts. Of course, a lot of grappling friends were in town for ADCC 22, which I didn't watch or attend. A lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of good stuff. Did attend again Lovato Jr. seminar, which is crazy. If you look at the picture of me and him, I'm like, oh yeah, no wonder why Musasi, who fought heavyweights, was like, this guy's huge, man. He's like, what is he, like 6'3"? Or something. He had to have been like a full 225, Shouts to my guy Julian Marquez, who I always quote, middleweights are heavyweights cutting weight. I mean, Oh, boy, oh, that's hot. Yeah, I mean, I'm like 5'9", and I look like just like I belong in the WEC next to him. And I probably should. We'll talk about Mads Burnell here coming up. Bellator, what is it, 285 they're on? We'll talk about him here. Standing next to that guy, I'm like, yeah, I should be a 145er, and I still wouldn't be that big, you know? But hey, let's talk about the pros, less about me. Just wanted to give you guys an update. What else happened? Oh, yeah, Canelo Triple G. I watched that. More educated people. I believe, is it Silas from the Fight Site, Crafty Boxing, Fight Site MMA podcast. Of course, my guy Kyle Mack, for all things boxing history, combat sports history. That is Combat Chronicles podcast on Patreon and podcast platforms. Shouts. I'm really stoked for his Miguel Torres documentary. But yeah, I watched Canelo and Triple G with some friends. Shout out to my guy Jake Swinney and my old BCG crew. Speaking of HoboCop, my grappling crew, BCG, of course, stands for... oh, Jesus. I feel like I say one thing, it just leads me into another story, because how can I not explain why you are a part of a grappling team called the Big Cock Guys? But that is the Neil Melanson name for the grappling team that we did like 10 years ago. We actually have competition shirts and everything. It says, we take on all comers and come on all takers. It's fantastic, folks. Real mature. But next to Randy Couture, Frank Trigg, my old roommate Patrick Bijan. The only fourth black belt I believe Neil gave out was this Saturday to my guy Jacob Swinney. He fought in Tough Enough as well. You grappling heads may know Jake. He upset Bill the Grill Cooper, one of the first EBIs back in the day when this whole grappling revival, this no-gi revival submission only stuff was really kind of taking off there. So that was really special, man. I'm trying to get some photos of that still, and hopefully we'll be getting back together with that crew. And maybe your boy can start working toward his brown belt. His brown belt for catch wrestling, working toward for jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, working toward it for catch wrestling. It's all the same as grappling to me, but Neil's who ranked me first, and it's cool to be getting back together with the guys, man. I'm not gonna lie. That camaraderie is pretty freaking cool. But hey, all right, we got that out of the way. Let's get to the UFC Vegas 260 recap, and then we will get to, very briefly, by the way, it's going to be Bellator 285, where I'm probably going to mainly be shouting out like Sean Gian and the Severe MMA crew for their excellent coverage of all things European, particularly, obviously, Irish MMA. My preview is going to be real light for that, folks. I'm just going to tell you pretty much what I'm on, and partially why, because, again, I can't say everything here. But I will do my best. So UFC Vegas 60, UFC Fight Night 210, UFC Fight Night Sanhagen Song recap is what we're going to recap here. And I will clean up the chat after. Much apologies, guys, again for all that nonsense. Good thing I didn't share this out, and I forgot to do that since I'm just so awful today. I'm going to actually share this out while I talk. We went basically 9-4 overall, 1-2 in props, 2-3 in round flyers, 2 for 4 of the round robin, which means we went 0 for 1 in the long shot round robin parlay. So let me share this link out, and we will go from top to bottom. Results on that before we, of course, get to Bellator 285, a quick preview there. Also some Jose Aldo talk. As you guys know, my article dropped over at MMAJunkie.com, where I ranked my top 11 as far as his WEC UFC fights. I did shout out some of his pre-WEC fights, those soccer kick matches, of course, over there. You guys know what I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm multitasking here, and we got that out. Okay, all right. Sorry, you got the one-man shit show over here. We'll try to keep this quickly as possible. Got results pulled up. I will circle back for all the questions, of course, the ones a couple that I touched on, and the rest. But yeah, if you guys got anything on this, feel free to insert that in for this card. Of course, Corey Sandhagen defeated Song Yadong. I did not watch this live. Was at the fight party for Canelo Triple G3. Where it's like, boy, it's just depressed seeing older fighters get old. Got to watch more of the, Roberto Duran, Iran Barclays of the world, right? Where the 37-year-old has his due. Doggies over here barking. Sorry, guys. It's nothing. They calm down. That is hot for reading is off, that coffee. But yeah, I missed Sandhagen's song live. Rewatched it. I don't hate anybody scoring it 2-2. By the way, if you want any real scoring talk, go see my guys Dan Urban and Scott Fontana, Couchside Judges podcast. Great podcast there. They really do a good job of breaking down the scoring for these rounds. I know round 2 is probably more the one in question here, because what do you value, the cut or the impactful strikes, particularly in the first half, more toward the first half of round 2 for Song. I'm usually the guy that kind of downplays cuts as far as damage and tells you to be careful on it, and I still hold by it. But again, like all rules, there are no hard and fast ones in MMA. And for this one, I actually do weigh it heavily because of the skill of the intercepting elbow shot, that intercepting up elbow that Sandhagen uses to cut it. But if you didn't see that, you can't overly weigh that cut, right? Because maybe the cut came through a graze of something that wasn't meant as a strike. Maybe even something illegal like a clash of heads, right? It depends on what your vantage point of the cage was, or just what you missed and what you didn't, right, sometimes. So if there are any judges that ended up giving it to Song, or any of you at home that ended up giving it to Song, I don't think anyone should be held over the stakes for that. I think that's a perfectly respectable score. I wasn't scoring it. I kind of was just rewatching it with the result in mind. I liked what Song was trying to do for portions of it, trying to counter. But I believe Ghost Phantom was the one in here bringing up questions about the cage cutting. I think those questions are all the more relevant. This was the fight where we really had to see it tactically, as far as can Song do it, and how tactically prepared, how much of a game plan, how thematically prepared, however you want to put it, is Song in his camp. Because that was another question we had. We were kind of going over here in the chat, right, folks? So I'll have to rewatch it for more of those. But in short, not the greatest job at cutting. He had some ideas in there. I didn't blame maybe so much the countering approach. We've seen that work for high footwork fighters before. But yeah, how much of it was going to... oh, no wonder it's at 65. Jesus, that is hot. How much of it was going to work, organically there, even with a small cage? I think the small cage just produced more violence, which in this case, was somewhat correct, although it was the cut, let's be honest, that stopped it. But let's be honest, the cut could have really stopped it sooner. I think Hobocop really threw everybody off, as far as the ref. Part of me, when I saw that, I thought of the Morgan Freeman line, which I know all the Team Magnum and Drake Riggs folks in the chat will appreciate this sentiment, perhaps, where it goes. But I don't know if you guys remember that line from Morgan Freeman in a really bad movie. Not bad movie, but just it upset me in a lot of ways, which we don't have to get into. But $1 Million Baby with the Clint Eastwood flick, where they're talking about Morgan Freeman talking about how he went blind, and how it was a fight that should have been stopped, and he's like, I forget what the line was, something about we were, two black guys in the middle of somewhere in the 19-somethings, right? We were brought there to bleed, and part of me was thinking about that for when people were like, how do they just keep looking at this hole that was getting, or this, this gaping cut that kept getting bigger and bigger on Song's eye, and the guy just kept letting him go. I'll be honest, part of my head initially went there, but I don't know how much I want to defend the doctor, but in the doctor's defense, I will say, you got to think the fight, which we'll talk about next, prior with Hobocop, seeing his exposed vein, and I'm not talking about Hobocop's, that exposed vein, right? You got to imagine that gruesome cut, of course, I'm referring to, between Hobocop's eyes, not his third eye. No, well, actually, it's by his third eye. You know what I mean, the one-eyed monster wearing the turtle. Listen. We'll get to all the cut or uncut jokes to Hobocop here in a second, folks. Don't you worry. But I do believe that cut that Hobocop sustained ultimately really trivialized. The doctor's call maybe in his own head there had him second guessing. Maybe I give him a leash because he can come back, which I hate that logic because it is very rare. It is unsafe. It does not yet justify. I heard someone say that they were almost mad, even though they like Hobocop and he pulled off the victory, that fight was allowed. That was just so gross. And I don't hate that take, folks. I don't hate that take. Bet and pick a side. Just on a health and safety standpoint, right? So I will say that for the doctor, but I'm glad they did stop it. And I will say this too, like, I don't know if we need to ask like a Mark Goddard or, if John McCarthy covered it in his weighing in podcast, but I usually net for cut stoppages. I like doing these sprinkles too because you net the post round for a later value, right? I referenced Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal that was stopped after round 3, so it goes down in round 4, even though round 4 never happened. But round 4 happened just as much as round 4 or round 5 happened in Song Sandhagen, no? Because they do the right thing, like I say, where the doctor will try to butt in during while the corner and cut man are doing their job, which I hate. And they'll even butt in at the very end of the window, which, again, you should give them the maximum window. And then as a bettor, you want to get the later round because it's more value. And I cited this specifically. So what they'll properly do is they'll let the cut man and the corners do their job before letting the doctor assess. Maybe they'll let the timekeepers and commission know they're going to call time right when the round starts to let the doctor let in it. But again, the round clicks and they call time, right? Why would you call time if the round isn't back in? We just came from a timeout period. So therefore, shouldn't it be round 5? But no, in Vegas, they went round 4. But yet in New York, they went round, they went, you get what I'm saying. They went into the overflow round, so to speak. So I didn't cash as much because of that, but that sent me over, of course. My dumbass, like I forgot to unmute myself. My dumbass also, I'm going to write unmute. I'm going to write that on the next page too, folks. Unmute. But yeah, my dumbass forgot to post the Sandhagen round flyers, which, of course, you guys knew where I was at because I said it on every medium possible, but I did not post it at the very end of the week, so apologies if that cost anybody because that's what ended up getting us over the finish line here. Even though they only gave us the round, the round 4, not the round 5, right? But that was like 272 ducats for the 17. So that took us over because we were just below, just like I think like the last 2 weeks in a row where we're like either break even / technically losing weeks in one house. Like, that's a good thing about not betting a lot is we're not losing a lot, folks, and we got to win another winning week this week, so to help stop the bleeding. So that's cool. So I'll take it. I'll take it. I wish the main events were worth more, but that extra 272 is worth enough for me. Whatever the plus 220, 2200 or whatever that round prop was. Gregory Rodriguez, Hobocop defeated Chidi Ninja Kawani. Chidi Ninja Kawani almost won by almost cashed our 0.75 unit plus 205 play on Chidi by KO. Although I didn't really get a chance to see too much of the checking left shots. Hobocop was just a bloody mess pushing through. Hobocop would not be denied. He actually used his grappling to finish it off at the end there. And props, man. I was just like laughing my ass off in disamazement the whole time. How can you not be happy for Hobocop? I know I picked and played Chidi, but you guys know I'm a big fan of Hobocop. That being said, I'm not going to play revisionist history again. I didn't pick him, so I got to give a salute to my guy Brad Taschuk, who is currently squad leader, driving the squad car, the Hobo Cop fan club, baby. You know, that is until Hobo Cop tries to teach him how to drive stick shift from the passenger side. Watch out, Brad! Hey, Hobo Cop. Easy, Dan. Easy. Let's see what the chat is saying. Yeah, it's been muted the first 12 minutes, yeah. Apologies for that, Alvin, but thank you for that. Thank you for answering my question, but I couldn't hear. You were muted, my friend. Yeah, that's right. I'll go back to hit that, Jin. I already touched on that one. The Jin. Basically, I'm saying don't those videos. Yeah, it's basically bad media, bad technology. I don't want to say bad media because it's not even like media members half the time, right? But it's medium. Due to the technology, we've seen that things get taken out of context. That's what Jin Karasu was talking about, people dedicating channels to certain fighters specifically, like Zhang Weili and the like. I just say it doesn't matter what it's about. If it's BS, just don't even interact with it the way algorithms work. Even if you want to dunk on it, like a quote tweet on Twitter, don't even dislike the video because that's giving it, even for those of you who dislike my videos, it's like you're actually helping me. Like, so for these videos, like, don't even touch them. That's the best way. That was my answer for that one, Jin Karasu. I believe you were one of the only ones that I answered, so I apologize. And that one is back. As the chat is saying, sound is off. Jersey Lee, apologies for that. No, it's not you, Jersey Lee. It's my dumbass. Krombopolis Rosen, what's up? Yep. Yeah, Dan, we can't hear you. Yeah, I know. I apologize for that. You're going to need to repeat everything you said. Yep, yeah, pretty much. Should I repost my question? Thoughts on... We'll get to Loma's performance. James Kendrick. Shouts to Canelo for using body-centric strategy. You probably explained that much better than me, my man, Ghost Phantom. Speaking of Neil Melanson, are you using the side cradle half guard to top? I love his cradle stuff, and yeah, I definitely implement as much cradle stuff as I can in general, especially, obviously, Neil's. That's where I got it from. Jimmy Kudo, are you familiar with 2019 88 kg bronze medalist Josh Inger? No, I'm not. He was working with Zhang Weili in the lead-up to the Joanna rematch. Oh, wow. Okay, I'll have to look out for him. Good shot there, Jimmy Kudo. Kambropolis Rosen, what do you think of Corey Sandhagen using takedowns early? I think it was good, something I called for. Whether or not he would be successful, it was more just making Song work and overload the reads. That being said, it didn't tire Song as much as we would think, so credit to Song there as well. Ghost Phantom, I always talk about the right straight to the body when you have your opponent squared up, circling to the fence. Why do you think we don't see it? Yeah, it's a great shot. It's very underutilized. Absolutely. He says Weili used it in the regional scene. And same with Joanna during her title reign. And also with Badahari in kickboxing. Yeah, it's a fantastic fundamental shot. Not used enough. I try to remind myself to get those pot shots too. All right. Since the chat is asking about our favorite fight. Okay, we'll get to the Zhang Weili stuff. I'll try to get to the UFC 260 questions. Why is cage cutting or cage positioning not worked on a lot in MMA? I'm not sure, but camps are getting smarter. For example, shouts to Eric Nixick. He sectioned off one of the octagons into like little triangles, and you kind of work your fractions in controlling your little squares. You divvied it up into the octagon if you were to divvy it up into those pizza slices. And we did some drills actually the other week with it. It was really cool. So shouts to the gyms implementing more of that. Here's one related. Ali Gad regarding cage cutting. Cage cutting, there's a great sequence toward the end of round 3 where Song is doing a decent job at cage cutting, but needs to plant his feet to generate power and thus lets Sandy slide by. Yeah, it's a real art. It's really tough when you really start thinking about it. Why would people dislike your videos, Dan? Your analysis is always good. I don't know about always good, but I appreciate it. You're too kind. Yeah, but Hobo Cop, congratulations to everybody who cashed on the ticket there. Andre Fili defeated Bill Algeo. 29-28, 29-28, 28 or 28-29. I disagree with the scorecard for Bill Algeo. I'm a big Bill Algeo fan. In fact, I'm surprised we didn't see more 30-27 Feelies. I know my guy Aaron Bronstetter, I believe, had that card live. And I don't blame anybody that came up with that card after recently rewatching rounds 2 and 3. Rounds 2 is close. I know Algeo has a good finish to it. But boy, does Fili land some really good shots throughout, including toward the end of the round himself, including a really hard liver kick side from the southpaw stance, body kick. It's flush. So I don't hate that. And, of course, I was just more upset with the takes of just, again, folks, just like we saw with the Shevchenko Santos and so on and so forth. It's like, as well with the take a shot. Dan's talking about Ketlin Vera, Yana Kunitskaya, where we're just overly crediting. We're overcorrecting the steering wheel here from like the lay and pray era of the sport that has been long gone. But we're overcorrecting the steering wheel with strikes from when you're punching behind you, literally punching behind you from a non-leveraging position. Not just a non-leveraging position for strikes, but the most disadvantageous position you could possibly be in a fight. A position that's very hard to earn. A position that needs to be respected. A position that you could finish the fight from both strike submissions to inadvertent submissions like a body triangle. It was just damn silly. I appreciate MMA hipster arguments. I know people were trying to play devil's advocate. Someone shouted, my guy Sean Sheehan, saying something about like Sean saying something about body triangles over strikes. Now, I don't know what the context that was in. That's why I didn't respond to that tweet. I don't want to respond to someone that's taking someone out of context, or therefore, in return, me take someone out of context. I don't want to do that to my guy Shawnee. But what I will say is that those of us who have been in body triangles or applied them, it really does suck. But you don't even have to resort to that answer of like, go experience it or whatever for those who are not feeling my response here. All you really simply have to do is ask yourself, how many fights have you seen finished from the guy who has his back taken? How many fights have you seen finished from the person taking the back? In fact, we'll take away the rear naked choke. We'll take away armbar and arm triangle transitions. We'll take away flattening them out and forcing the referee to stop them with strikes. We'll take away elbows and all the like, because of that is such a goddamn dominant position, okay? I'll even take that away. We'll just go, like the person who tweeted me, body triangle versus the strikes. How many fights have we seen finished by the body triangle? We've seen a bunch. In fact, you should be thinking of even some of the most high-level fighters in the most high-level organizations, the most technical, high-level divisions, like lightweight, like former champions, like Anthony Pettis and Dustin Poirier. You can tell me those guys don't know what they're doing? You can tell me those guys just tap because they're, I know Anthony Pettis has, fragility issues as far as like, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but just, his body is definitely falling apart on him. But I mean, those are real fight finishing positions that we've seen in other fights as well, get finishes. So, on the high level throughout the time continuum. So to even have the argument is just silly. It's just silly. They were non-leveraging shots. They may look bad, or the blood was coming from Algeo. That was part of it. And Algeo, it's no disrespect to Algeo too. It's like, what the hell is Algeo supposed to do? He can't get out of it. Not just because he's not talented. Algeo's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. That's how he was able to, a big part of why he was able to survive. He got his arm broken in the fight, Algeo did. So all he could do was just kind of hang tough and do that. So I am not blaming. Hats off to Bill Algeo. I gave him respect before the fight, during, after. I'm keeping that same energy. All respect to Algeo. But no respect to this argument of what Algeo was doing should win him around. This is ridiculous. I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we went from laughing at Matt Mitrione for punching Brendan Schaub when he's stuck in the arm triangle, for opting for that for his defense. Wow, someone's going to clip that, even though there's plenty of me doing The old Dan Tom. Jeff Rooney there. How do we go from rightfully making fun of people striking while caught in submissions to going, I think they won the round maybe. Hey, who needs to escape jiu-jitsu? Like, why don't you just stay in a disadvantaged position? There's a reason why there's this shameful tone why, go to Tai Tuivasa when he's mounted by JDS for the finish. And when they go, oh, God, Ty's punching back. They're saying it in that tone because it's embarrassing. It's almost borderline embarrassing. It's like you don't know what it means. You don't know what to do, and you're probably gonna get finished, and you're definitely losing the fight. So to go from there to I think he's winning the fight. How the fuck did we get here, folks? Explain that one. Anyways, there we go. Let's see. You guys have a lot of comments on this too, so let's go here. My man Ramundo, I had Chidi round 1 and Corey round 3. Oh, so close, man. I feel you, Ramundo. I feel you, man. I thought I was gonna cash that Chidi ticket too. I was driving when that fight was going, and Hobo Cop's got a massive cut. Oh my goodness! And I was like, okay, cool. I'll catch up on this later. I think the TKO. Either Chidi's going to finish that momentum or the doctor will stop this one. I just cashed my plus 200. And I just kept driving. I just read the result later. I'm like, how did he win? So I feel you, Ramundo. We go Jimmy Kudo. Dan, what do you think of fans like me who gamble but like to listen to your podcast, pick up techniques for sparring? Just so I can use it on other hobbies. I think that's awesome, man. Let me know if anything works, by the way, particular for you, Jimmy Kudo. Keep us updated, my brother. Oliver Gadd, back on topic, says, I feel like there's been a bit of an overcorrection regarding damage versus control. There has been, absolutely. And another part of that I want to say is that the striking when they're in these positions, folks, it's also silly because it's a sign of frustration. And a sign of frustration falls under fighting spirit. And no, not the Modelo fighting spirit. But again, if you want to be contrarian, hipster, criteria nerd about it, fighting spirit is a metric that is measured and listed and accounted for in the criteria. And when you dominate someone from a dominant position, I know that we've heard DC and other respectable analysts get things like control wrong and actually overvalue that in comparison to the overvaluing against it, leaving us in a fucked up no man's land where common sense and the middle ground seems to be lost out the window now. But control, one of the things control does do is to the criteria nerds, you're right to point out to people that are in the old school mindset, control doesn't mean you're doing damage. If you're not doing damage, you're doing yourself a disservice. That is true. But there is something else about control, particularly from really dominant positions like body triangles, backs, the Dagestani handcuff, quarter mount, 3/4 mounts rides, right? Is that it breaks down your fighting spirit, man. Those of us who've been there, we don't like to admit it, but there's times where we've wanted to tap just by positions, exhaustion taps. Veterans of us who have been around for a while, we get back in it and we're just getting worked from a position, right? We've all been there. It's not prideful. It's very shameful, but it's there. That is fighting spirit. And making someone flail and frustrated, that's diminishing their fighting spirit. So it needs to be accounted for. Does it equal 10 points to a damaging strike to 1? No, I'm not out here spouting this nonsense. No. But it needs to be accounted for. And that I will say, if you want to challenge in that, then I will pull the card. Well, go get into the position. How many times have you been in the position? How many times have you been body triangled? How many times have you body triangled somebody? How many times have you broke someone's will? How many times have you had your will broken? You got to experience these things to understand. Ghost Phantom, why do you think MMA media like to overvalue non-leveraging shots? Is it because they don't know? Or they don't know because they've never been experienced it. Again, this is what I've been kind of touching on, and I hate to be that guy who pulls that card. But sometimes it's I do wonder that, sometimes. But I hate using. I feel like that's the laziest criticism that gets thrown at all of us. Gets thrown at the judges, and I know the judges are real big into grappling. A lot of them are very experienced. A lot of them used to fight, right? From your Herb Deans to Mark Goddards of the world. I believe Eric Colon, I believe, fought as well. A bunch of them did. So, I be careful when we laud that critique toward whether you're media, especially judges and commission members, because a lot of them come from that world and are still actively participating at running schools or teaching or participating themselves at a higher level because they love it. There's no other reason why you would do that job. It's because you love it. I'm not trying to be some defender of them. I'm just saying that something to keep in mind, right? Back to that respect and keeping things in mind. But yes, to your point, Ghost Phantom, I gotta wonder how many people, could use that lesson, right? Oliver Gadd, I think it definitely raised an interesting question around slappy ground strikes versus unsuccessful sub attempts. But yeah, always kills me when guys start punching behind them. Yep, it's ridiculous. James Kendrick, someone said this the other week, but Dan, your picks are not always correct, but it's a hard sport to call. People should just appreciate your work and dedication from it. Oh, I appreciate that. It is tough. That's another reason why I like, it's all good to make jokes and poke fun, and my guy Gianni has fun with it too. But there's another reason why you guys haven't been seeing me, pile on to Gianni every Tuesday, right? Who, by the way, swept all those picks. So shout outs to the Greek gambler, making a clean sweep this past Tuesday. But someone was asking me about that, and someone was like, "Oh, why don't you do?" And I'm like, I don't know if I would want that job, to be honest. That's a tough job. Get on there and make picks on something as volatile as Contender Series. Like, I know Johnny was on like a legendary streak there for a second, but to be honest, man, I mean, I'm not too far away from, my streak was never sure, my streak wasn't, anything like that, but I went on a real bad streak in the middle of this year, folks. So I am not throwing stones in glass houses here, but I do appreciate the kind words. Oliver Gadd, Ty punching back from the bottom mount was really rough. Always feel like Ty had a few escape drills. Always feel like Ty has a few escapes that if he drills and if they get stuffed, then he looks a little lost. He has improved, but yeah, that was earlier Ty for sure. All right. We'll get to the rest there, but I want to blow through these results. But yeah, I one last here. My favorite UFC commentary is a pretty clear round being contested on the feet after the losing fighter gets a takedown with 15 seconds left, and the commentary goes, "That's huge. That could steal the round." Yeah, I think I want to think from here on out they're going to be better about that. But that's been a classic one for a long, long time, to be fair. Joe Pyfer defeated Alan Amedovski. Fortunately for Amedovski, he was set up here. It's pretty clear. Pyfer round 1 cashed for plus 110. That was nice. And the under, which was very reasonable price. You could have bet the house on that, minus 169. For the under 1.5 there. Got coffee. Oof, straight chest. Yeah, no surprise there. You know me, I'm not like a big, shouts to my chronic combat conversations guys. I'm not a big guy in the narrative stuff, or I try not to be, but how could you not be? I mean, this was a clear narrative spot where they weren't going to let Pyfer lose after Dana White goes off. He likes to do his, in case you don't know, now you know. And, I told you. I've talked about those spots before. They're going to do everything they can to hype up those spots. They're going to be dead silent when those spots fail, and he's going to tweet and rub it back in your face when the guy he called out wins, right? Every time. And this was the most clearest one. I mean, especially here after he was buying the dude's apartment and whatnot. Yeah. Rodrigo Nascimento defeated Tanner Bowser. Tanner fought with the urgency he called for, but man, the size difference was bigger than even I expected. And once he was able to get him on the ground, he was able to ride it out. I don't blame anybody for being hipster trying to give it to Tanner, but it was dead for me, dead in the water either way for me. So It was a miss, but I will say, and some of you tweeted me and gave me credit, Tanner Boser's best round was in the second. You know, there was a part where Rodrigo Nascimento, after grappling heavy in the first, like I told you guys last week, he was going to have to put down the pack, and Boser's best chance was going to be to get him out of there in the second. So, you know, again, the picks were wrong. The pick and play was wrong there, but the analysis was fairly spot on in my defense. But again, it doesn't matter. Analysis can be right. A wrong pick is a wrong pick, and a wrong play is a wrong play. It does not pay. So the round 2 was close for that round robin. That would have been huge, but no, negative. It was not meant to be. Of course, what was on the round robin? We'll get to the other hit. The Piper under. Chidi by KO almost hit. Was not meant to be. This almost hit. Was not meant to be. Hernandez defeated Marc-Andre Barriou. Wow. Pile driver and the work, separated rib, all that stuff. I hope Marc-Andre recovers, man. That is rough. But good for Fluffy Hernandez, man, who's on a roll and really, really, you know, had a coming out party of sorts, if you will. It's funny for how homophobic, you know, some of a big majority of the fan base can be. This really is a gay sport, isn't it? I mean, we everything sounds gay. The phrasing's gay. The phraseology is gay. Everything is gay. You know, just coming from behind and Jesus, Dan. All right, easy. I'm just saying. I'm not hating. I'm just saying. You know, like Paddy Pimblett. You know, gayest walkout in MMA. I mean, seriously, it's fantastic, and I'm not hating. It's fantastic. I mean, you like go back and watch Paddy Pimblett's walkout, folks, and tell me it's not like the you know the queen bee coming out for the party. You know, just like the star of the show. Like you know you're gonna see the dude who kissed BJ Penn on the walkout come out of nowhere and just give Paddy a big one on the lips one of these days. But yeah, Fluffy Hernandez had his coming out party. Is what I was trying to say. Good stuff for him. Damon Jackson, Walt Goggins, baby. I didn't even get a chance to get a Walt Goggins joke, and he's making us all cry with the upset. Apologies for those who backed Patty Sabatini. I know I'm enthusiastic with Patty Sabs, and I wanted to play him. Ended up staying away, which was a good thing that I didn't add the Pat Sabatini by decision because he got out of there in the first round. So, wow. But even if he did play it, how can you be mad, right? Because, I mean, man, I was dusted up. I feel like I'm extra emotional, you know, right now. Anyways, as I get older, the head trauma, competing, again, like my, you know, dieting, all these things. I am really emotional right now. So, yeah, I definitely was got dusty-eyed, man, and was very happy for Damon Jackson and his family. Just that roller coaster, watching his family. I don't know how they could have been there, just putting themselves through watching a family member fight after losing one. So, so happy for Damon Jackson, his family, and his team. And shouts to Patty Sabs, man. He'll bounce back. He's still a young guy, still a lot of talent, a lot of good people around him. I'm sure he'll bounce back. Jay Giles, Trevin Giles defeated Luis Koski. I listened to a bunch of podcasts recap this, and up until just reading the result right now, I keep forget it's so in one ear and out the other. And I was even just listening to the Depressed earlier today, and like they forgot who won, and like yeah, I can't tell you anything about this fight. We had a Loma Lookboom question. Loma Lookboom defeated Denise Gomes. I saw some of this fight in and out. We had a question on it earlier. Let's bring it back up. Someone was asking about Loma. Who was asking about regarding cutting Zhang Lee? Apologies, guys. I'm all over the place today. Yeah, I thought I saw a Loma question. Apologies if I missed it. I'll try to find it. She did a little bit of that Muay Thai swagger, where she like got caught and got like tackled and almost costed her. But I really liked her elbows. Denise Gomez tried to overwhelm her with some physicality. But yeah, it reminded me of like Uriah Faber in the guard, or like even like a miniature Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz had some really nasty elbows in the guards, folks. I know he is known for more ignominious things these days, but the guy knew how to elbow some people in the guard. All right. Sofa commentary. Mary Rui, what's up? I've heard that WMMA is different than MMA. Is there a difference, or are people just being unreasonable? I mean, it's the same sport. I don't know what difference it's talking about. Maybe more just like the elephant in the room difference. That it's I've always referred to it like WMMA. It's not in the, speaking of Tito, it's no longer in the Tito and Chuck era that it was in with like Rousey, post Rousey-ish. I would say that was more like WMMA's like Tito or Chuck if they were going through their own version of the timeline and their own evolution. Which they are. Now you can either use it to disparage them or to give them the proper acknowledgement, or at least individual acknowledgement, which they deserve, right? Not saying they don't deserve to be treated as a whole. I mean, look at it. They're included in the same cards. They're even in the UFC. We've seen how far even Dana White himself has come. You look at the pay scale in and out of the UFC. The women actually, they're doing better than a lot of the guys. So it's not saying MMA is a bastion for equality. I mean, whether we're talking about women, LGBTQ, POC, it's got a long way to go in a lot of categories. It's not the most friendliest still, but I'm just saying, as far as there are some on the other side, there are some very undeniable progressive facts about it, if you will. And I know pay is not a popular one because they're all underpaid, right? But I will say that there are women that are pulling better paychecks in and out of the UFC than a lot of the men. So it all depends on perspective, right? I guess I would say Mary Rui as far as the difference. Can some people be unreasonable with it? Sure. Yeah, sure. You gotta look, see if they're being tongue in cheek, if they're just trying to be comedic about it, or if they're being serious. And if, again, kind of like I said to a question, my guy Jin's question earlier, if you see just nonsense, just don't even interact with it. Don't even bother. Don't give it the time of day on the algorithm, Mary. Mark Fellows, my man Mark. Oh, we're live. Good day, DT. I was indisposed earlier. So was I. I was muted earlier, Mark, so you didn't miss anything. Just ask the chat. Look up for the 15 minutes that I put them through. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was like you think I'm doing it on purpose at this point. Like is Dan Tom Andy Kaufman? Is he just doing stand-up sets to troll us at this point? He's gonna go on here. I'm just gonna be muted for the first 15 minutes. Get rid of all the trolls. So I filter out only the hardcores who are just feel that bad for me at that point, right? That is my key demo. All right. Speaking about talking about respect, I've seen the build up to the fight last week, but Damon Jackson was overlooked and made fun of. So good to see him win. Yeah, he was definitely overlooked. I don't know if he was made fun of. I know I didn't even make my Walt Goggin jokes, if you want to count that as making fun of the guy. But it's always in respect. Of course, it's more just, me, I can't help but do the doppelganger thing. Like, I do doppelgangers for everybody. That's my game. It's fun. So it's completely in respect. But I see what you mean, and I totally feel good for him as well, James. Or, yeah. All right. Let's finish up this. Trey Ogden defeated Daniel Zellhuber. That was a popular parlay piece. Again, I'm glad I avoided that, but I feel for everybody that took it. Zellhuber, man. Again, I heard nothing about good things. I myself was high on what I saw of the kid, but I don't know if it was octagon shock or what. But props to Trey Ogden, man. I felt good for Trey Ogden pulling off the upset, and of course, I feel for everybody who lost some on Zellhuber, but hopefully he'll be back. Jillian Robertson defeated Maria Agapova. This one, man. Oh, I felt this one in my heart, not just because I bet it, but like, again, back to me being more emotional and calling out my biases because they're a little more lively, because I'm perhaps more emotional, right? This was another fight where it was you have athletic striker versus non-athletic submission grappler. I obviously sentimented with this a lot. I obviously projected and saw a lot of my own current challenges within this fight, not just the bet. So, like, I was on pins and needles watching this one live. And it definitely had some ups and downs, but Robertson eventually got the job done, as ugly as it might have looked from the Agapova side, but that cashed, and therefore cashed 2 out of the 3 legs. I think it ended up paying, like 62 or something. Those 2 legs put together, the under and the submission prop, plus the 17 back. So we only got maybe 3/4 back of what you invested in the round robin. But we ended up getting it all back by the end of the night, because we also played the submission straight up, plus 240.275. And even if we got it at the lower rate, at the plus 140 in the other houses, the Corey Sandhagen round props still pushed us over, along with the Pfeiffer round props by the end of the night, right? So that was nice. Javid Basharat defeated Tony Gravely. Didn't watch too much of this one. Basharat came through, as well as Nicholas Mota defeated Cameron Van Camp. Shout out to the offspring of my man, Aaron Bronstetter, who was on that one, I believe. Ollie Gadd, livid at Rainbow Shorts, but love it when Patty gets his ass out at weigh-ins. Yeah. Patty is a character. I relate to the eating, unfortunately. Combrapoulos Rosen. Thank you. He said, he goes, since you mentioned wrong pick is a wrong pick, why do I see other analysts who get picks wrong try to defend their analysis when they are wrong? I respect what you do when you are wrong and admit it. I really appreciate that. He adds, it shows you are willing to learn, which makes you very good. I appreciate that. And that is the attitude. That's the martial arts attitude I try to apply. So you're spot on there. I can't speak for other analysts, gamblers, whatever you want to say it. But I will say it's a business, man, especially those of them who put themselves into business and treat it that way. And I'm not saying that as shade, because I should be doing it more, to be honest. You guys hate to say it. I hate to say it, but it's a reality. I should watch what I say more. I should be more presentable. I should be more professional. I should pad my desk. I'm not saying other people do, but I'm just saying, as far as any of these things, whether you're outright padding or whether you're feathering your nest, so to speak, for your falls, I should probably be doing this a lot more. It's smart strategy. Whether you're selling something or not, whether you're just trying to justify your position or trying to sell yourself to get to a position, that's what we're essentially doing, right? We're out there, we're in the public eye, whether we're tweeting or doing a live song and dance like I'm doing for you now, very poorly, mind you. That's what we're doing, and that's what they're doing. That's really all I can say. That being said, even though I could use more of the business savvy, I feel like it's more honest and more valuable to you and more valuable to me at the end of the day, if I'm honest, where my shortcomings are. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's not popular. Doesn't produce as much immediate results. That's for dang sure. Maybe even not produce as much long-term results as I'm listing off all these negatives, but I feel like it's the air quote right way, if there is such a thing. Just try to be honest as possible and learn as much as possible. So yeah, and so that's my answer. I can't shit on anybody else or tell you why they do things. I can just tell you why I try. Not perfect. I try to do things. So thank you for the acknowledgement. What are your thoughts on Usman saying that it would be... sorry, I'm going to make this a little bigger. That's what he said to she said. Sorry. What are your thoughts on Usman saying that it would be sad to see Zhang Weili walking around with the belt when everyone knows that Rose bested her twice? If he did say that, I don't know the context. Out of context, I think he's just saying that because Rose is his girl and he trains with Trevor, so I'll give him that benefit of the doubt as to that's why he's saying it. But I don't think it's sad at all. We've seen MMA have such weird MMA math results. Some people just have certain people's numbers. It doesn't really take away from their greatness or legacy, right? We'll talk about Max Holloway, Jose Aldo here before we get out of here in a second. There's a repost. Thoughts on Loma Look Beast's performance? Shouldn't it be easier to fight low-level comp if Loma is sparring and wrestling with Wei Li? But she had a hard time in some spots. I want to say this Denise girl, she recently fought in Contender Series, so I believe she fought on short notice. So again, fighting someone on short notice can just make all the difference in the world if you're preparing for a certain fighter, as well as styles make fights, right? So I do want to give Loma that out, and not to continue and harp on the size thing or continually make that an out, but it does continually make her fights harder than they should be, because she's just so undersized even for strawweight. All right. There you go. Dan reposted the question about Loma. Thank you, James. I was looking for that. Oliver Gadd, I think WMMA is definitely newer and less of a talent pool, but strawweight is banging. I agree. Strawweight is the best of those divisions. No offense to the other ones. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the other divisions evolve and grow. Me too. Hopefully some atomweight action. All right. Let me see. Did I finish this? Yep, I finished the breakdown there. All right, 111, 10. I want to get to Bellator 185 real quick, and just some thoughts on Jose Aldo. Then I'll finish up with your questions. Bellator is going down in Dublin, Ireland. Check out the Action Network. We posted some bets for some of the top fights, which I will touch on and shout the appropriate peeps. I believe my guy Billy Ward. Shout out to Billy Ward there. Psycho Ward, I believe, on Twitter. He likes Benson Henderson at minus 190, who headlines against Peter Queally. What did old Bendo open at? Speaking of WEC alum, still doing it, minus 240. So you're getting him at a discount, in toward playable chalk range. I haven't been catching up too much with Henderson or Queally. Can you squeeze out one from the old vet? Does his fighting in close style, does it bite him in the butt, or does it save his butt, right? There's always that question. And I'm not as familiar with Peter Queally. Again, you want to check out people like over the Severe MMA podcast. We're going to give you, frankly, the best coverage on the Irish MMA stuff like this. So shouts to them. I know they got Harry Powell, BJJ, does good analysis work. And I believe even friend of the show, our guy there, Spencer Kite, does work over there with the Severe Squad. So I definitely want to give credit where it is due, and shout them for all the things that I'm missing here. But yeah, I don't blame anybody liking the Henderson chalk too. Speaking of chalk, Yoel Romero minus 700 for a guy who never even seems sure how many rounds he's fighting these days, against Malvin Manhoof plus 510, all 5'9" of him, 5'8" of him, fighting at 205, loading up on Thai food. I saw on one of the media spots there. Yeah, man. I know my guy, Ben Folks, likes Romero round 2, which is sneaky because, again, it's probably going to be a feeling out period in round 1. And I know Romero round 3 is the magic number. You'll probably get a nicer number on that. But I don't know if it goes that far. So perhaps round 2 is the sweet spot in the 400 plus 450 range. Maybe I'll sprinkle $20 I don't want to see again in honor of the co-main event podcasters plays. Liam McCourt plus 115. Dana Silva, I believe someone from Action Network. I don't know if it was my guy Clint McLean, who fought on the Contender Series, his doppelganger did anyways, or my guy Dan Stupp. But Liam McCourt opened as a favorite, now is underdog. So for the value argument alone, you need not research. You can just take that if you are really feeling froggy for some Bellator dogs. But I don't know about this Diana Silva. Perhaps money came on her for a reason. I did not research it, so I'm sorry to be of no help there. My play, of course, and my insight is Mads Burnell, minus 560. I know, surprise, surprise, Dan's on a big favorite, but considering the way Bellator favorites are priced, where they'll have minus 1,000s for people you never freaking heard of in your life, I do like Mads Burnell. My stated Extreme Couture bias and stated Mads Burnell bias, as I've spent some time talking and hanging with him a bit this camp aside, I would honestly end up at this spot anyways. I've been a big Mads Burnell fan regardless. Cashed some dog tickets with him back in the day when people were hating, and he's really proved his worth, even in losing efforts, fight of the year losing efforts against Adam Borix. Just proving me and the rest of the analyst nerds right about Mads Burnell. Whereas Pedro Carvalho, I got familiar with him, doing an in-depth on him when I broke him down ahead of his fight with Patricio Pitbull Fieri. So that's how I'm familiar with Pedro, who is really improved, training between Portugal and SBG Ireland. Throw some heavy kicks from the southpaw stance, can switch, but really likes to fight from the southpaw stance. I think he's going to go to that a lot here, especially with grappling being more organic, and he can do some really good grappling as far as floating and scrambling, can finish from an RNC, really, good from the back position is Carvalho, but I doubt he wants to be shooting on a guy with a Japanese necktie and a front headlock like Mads Burnell. So it's going to be a lot of striking, and Mads, I can't say, I'm not allowed to say what he's going to be doing in this fight, but I'll say this, he's going to unveil something that he hasn't done yet, and holy crap, if you guys are a fan of my analysis, you'll maybe understand this hint. He's going to do what southpaws hate. There's nothing more southpaws hate than this. Mads has never done this before, and watching him do it and watching him do it live, it's like he's fought this way his whole career, and he hasn't, and it's just amazing. So I'm very excited to see if, how he approaches and if he's able to pull this off. I'm very confident he will be able to. And let's just say that it's within the striking realm if you're not already catching these hints, which is scaring me away from the submission prop. And which is weird because my purposely vague inside info that I'm not giving purposely aside here, the lines reflect that Mads is more likely to get a knockout than a submission, if not, depending on what house you look in, it's roughly at an even number. But if you look at Mads' record, he's like 9 submission wins and only 1 TKO win. Like, this guy's a submission guy. You could totally see a club and sub. It's absolutely on the table. Carvalho could get hurt, and then he shoots in to a sub, and Mads is great finishing from guillotines, front headlocks, right? So I'm not saying not to go bet the sub. I'm just saying I got scared away from it with the approach that I see happening in this fight. And it's just kind of odd that the odds would reflect that. But the way they do stack up is these guys are, more do or die they're more do on the Mad side and more, I guess, more of the die on the Carvalho side. But yeah, most of these guys are either finish or getting finished kind of deals. More finishes than decisions on their record on each side of it and overall. So what I did was I bet Mads Burnell inside the distance at the one house I could. You can find it at still plus money like DraftKings and stuff. I got it at Bet Online where they don't make you choose, Parker, choose! And I took it inside the distance at plus 100. I just maxed it out, whatever you can max out. I think Bet Online only lets you max out for 250. And I was thinking about backing up the dump truck back when Mads was like minus 400 to minus 422. But even then, it was like, I could do one of these like fake tout, which I would actually really do it, like a 10 unit. I was just dropping 10 units on his money line. But it's like I would have only made like, 2.5 units back at like minus 4 something odds, and now he's well over minus 500. I'm not doing that. So I just took inside the distance. I may look for some. There's plenty of chalk to parlay him with. I haven't looked into it, to be honest. I'll look into it more. Maybe I'll go reference, see what the parlay players of the world are doing. Shouts to the guys like the CJ Saftics of the world and stuff. See what they're up to. But no, I haven't really researched anything myself, folks. I'm just throwing out people who deserve shouts and references who could perhaps help you maybe, and giving you guys what I got and what I can give you. I can't give you everything, but I like Mads here a lot. So any of the big gamblers who follow me, for what that's worth, I like Mads a lot. If you have anybody you like on this card or in other sports, other big chalk pieces, that's what I would look to tie Mads to. The rest of the fight, not too much there. You got Georgi Karakhanyan at minus 175 odds. He came down from minus 2 to 1, so money coming in on Kane Musa. Who else we got here? Brian Moore, minus 365. Irish staple there. You got my guy Brett Johns, minus 740. Jesus. Yeah, Romero, Jesus, this is just big chalk on this card. I'm not too familiar with this. Again, go shouts to the Sphere MMA guys. They'll probably get you guys better for a Bellator preview of the sort here. All right, 121. That was Bellator. I'm going to clean up a little bit on the chat, and then we'll leave on some thoughts on Jose Aldo. Jimmy Kudo, thoughts on the exploitive thing Dana White Contender Series is doing? Cheap talent for 10 and 10, and mediocre, and place on mediocre cards. Yeah, it's I've spoken about this before. I know Contender Series is my beat, but it's no disrespect to the fighters, and I love it because it gives other people talent a chance, like Laura Sanko, who's freaking amazing, and she needs to be on big broadcasts. My guy Justin Bernard, who's killing it in the ring announcing. Dan Helly, who does a great job and deserves some more work time, along with Brendan Fitzgerald, who of course I love, and the man himself, John Anik, of course. I'm not hating on guys like Johnny, or whatever, but it is really tough to ignore that what it's doing to the labor market perspective. Like, I definitely don't want to sound like that guy. It sounds troublesome, cheap labor. Like, whoa, red flags. What is Dan Gizzy getting into economics and politics? Relax, folks. I'm not going there, and that's not me. But as far as the MMA, the UFC roster goes and the health of it, yeah, it's clear what's going on here, and it's killing negotiation leverages for fighters on the upper level who deserve to really take that next step and get paid more. And fighters coming in are doing well compared to what they're getting on the regional scene. But again, overall, and from many metrics, is it still what they're due, and what is it doing higher up the food chain, right? A lot of these cards are looking like Contender Series cards, and it's tough. You really got to parse and pick out what you want to choose. And I'm not hating on these fighters getting these opportunities and whatnot. Even the 17-year-old kid, that people are making an uproar. My guy Ben Folks made a great point. Like, believe me, I'm all about highlighting, head trauma costs and getting too excited about things. Believe me, I'm usually that guy, right? But at the same time, how many kids his age across the country are getting irreparable head trauma, even dying, in a popular sport called American football? We don't bat an eye about that, So I'm not. That's why you didn't see me flipping out too much about the Raul Rosas Jr. Talk. But yeah, as far as the contracts and stuff, it's the situation there. I don't like what it's doing, man. And I don't expect other people to see that or do that math or expect them to or want them to ruin their day or their source of entertainment by doing that math. But yeah, I do the math. And this series has been burning me out for many reasons, if we're being honest. I know it's my job to cover it, but I gotta tell you guys, I'm going to be honest here, whether it's good or not. Dan, do you have interesting clinch entries from Southpaw? I'm trying to get more interesting clinch entries from Southpaw, but I'm not going to give them away here in case any future opponents are watching. Just kidding. Shouts to my guy Justin. I'll forget. I feel like analysts can defend the wrong picks because what they're saying about a matchup isn't necessarily wrong. People bring in neo looks to fights in order to win an unfavorable matchup. Yeah, there's that too. I definitely have fallen into that category, right? For sure. I've been on my soapbox more often than not, so I can't hate. Crumbopoulos Rosen, yes, you bring up great points, but I believe that honesty is always good. Me too. I guess getting defensive is probably a poor showing, though. Feels like in order to be an analyst, you've got to accept that this sport is incredibly silly all the time and not get attached. That is incredibly good, a good point. Yes, that is a very good point. You are spot on. Bellator 285 question from Makato. Is Yoel versus Melvin manipulative BS from Bellator? Melvin is a welterweight. Melvin's a grown man. He wants to do what he wants to do. I think he's resignated himself to these kind of matchups and is done with it. It's going to be his retirement fight. As far as Bellator, they've been doing this stuff. It's tough, man. You want to get you want to give him crap about Dada 5000 and the Kimbos and that era, especially for sure. But it's hard because they haven't gotten that bad, but not just not that gotten that bad. In their defense, they've gotten a lot better about developing and their cards from top to bottom, from undercards, and not just like recycled, like homegrown and just up and coming fighters investing into the wrestlers. So I can't hate too much. This is at least old guy versus old guy. So, at least there's that, right? That's like the best we can ask for these days when we see these elder statesmen competing as a guy who's going to fight someone a decade younger than him. Mikado says, what is Melvin doing fighting Corey Anderson and Yoel Romero back-to-back? Yeah, the Corey Anderson fight was ridiculous. That one was, oof. What are we doing there? You're absolutely right on that one. Ghost Phantom Dan, I know what you're talking about with Mads Burnell. The dreaded southpaw double attack, especially when the orthodox fighter slips to the open side. We will see. We will have to see. Burnell knows his stuff too, and so do you, sir. Jimmy Kudo, are you going to go back to some of the Zhang Weili questions from earlier? We all love her. I will try my best, but this podcast is running long. So if you want to recycle some, otherwise I will try to if I can. Ghost Phantom, do you like switch hitting? Easy phrasing with straight punches. Yes, I do, actually. So you're learning 4 punches with 2 different looks, right jab, right shot. Yep, I do all the time. Yep, my shadow boxing, sparring, and everything. I love it. And agree, Lorosenko and Gooden is one of the best booths. I love John Gooden as well. Not enough John Gooden in the life. Senko needs to get in some fight nights in 2023. I completely agree, Oliver Gadd. I'd love to see her on pay-per-views, really, but baby steps, I suppose, yes. All right, as I circle back up to some of the Zhang Weili questions before we get out of here. There we go. All right. Dun. All right. I already did the one on the Zhang Weili question as far as that. I think there's so much sympathy. Weili key. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Jimmy Kudo, why do you think there is so much sympathy when Weili KO'd Joanna or when Andrade slammed Rose? There's very lovable fighters, I suppose. Fan favorites. Even if they're not mine or yours, they are very fan favorite fighters. You can factor into the female equation of how some of us, especially males, are guilty of treating females to males. You can even split the hairs further on there, right? Females that we deem attractive from whatever metric to ones that maybe aren't as traditionally attracted by whatever metric. That maybe could unfortunately play into some things too. But those are usually the typical answers. Yep, I already got Jin's question about the channels dedicated, to negative attention. Don't give them attention. Simple. Shouts to Canelo. Speaking of Neil Melanson, yep, you already gave me those. This was one. I was not familiar with this person, Josh Hinger, as far as this question, who apparently had been training with Zhang Weili, ADCC bronze medalist. That was one. Are you familiar with the MMA gym Extreme Couture? That's where I'm training. I saw in a live chat with Weili that Weili may be splitting her time between Extreme Couture and the UFC PI in preparation for a fight with Carla. I will be keeping an eye out from her. I did see Rin Nakai, Japanese fighter, out there a couple weeks ago. All right. And I think that is it. If you have any more Zhang, I know we get a lot of Zhang Weili stuff, so I'm probably going to be missing some of it, so I apologize. All right. Here we go. Recycled. There we go. But when Rose knocked out Weili, Jimmy Kudo adds to an earlier question, media praised Rose and made fun of Weili's career and downplayed her championship run in the sympathy on whether she was okay or not. Yeah, that of course cycles back to, again, splitting hairs between, female athletes. Perhaps geopolitics could fall into that, as far as what's more attractive, right? More attractive narratives, right? It's not necessarily looks that's attractive. Storylines, narratives, things that shouldn't matter as much, like geopolitics, and unfortunately bleed into our sport and bleed into the coverage, right? And that's what you guys are kind of seeing and citing here. Last Zhang Weili question before I finish this chat on Jose Aldo and we get out of here. How would you classify Zhang Weili as a fighter? Is she a wild brawler or a technical striker? She's a technical striker. She's not a wild brawler. I've seen Jack Slack say that she's a good technical striker. Okay, I feel less crazy saying that. But I've seen her haters call her wild and unintelligent. Again, these are just people you guys shouldn't be paying attention to. Like, honestly, as far as off-base stuff, Jack Slack, definitely someone you should be paying attention to. That dude knows what he's talking about. Happy to be on the same side of his opinion and not the wild haters. Here's an important question. Best Korean barbecue in Vegas. Hard-hitting questions here. You know what? I got to go with my man Aaron Bronstetter, actually. People from out of town know this place better than me, Mark. It's insane. But Huado was really good. Oh, my goodness. Huado. It was really amazing. If you make it up here, Mark, we're going. There ain't no excuse. We're going, baby. To quote Pulp Fiction. But I do love me some this place called Island Style. It's off like Sahara and Decatur, I think. It's the wife is from Korea and the husband is a mixed Asian guy, local guy from Hawaii. So you've got like the chicken katsu and the like stuff like that, like, you know, mac salad and combination plates, right? Like but then you got like all the Korean good stuff. Like you got the traditional Korean barbecue where you can cook it on the table to like the dishes that my favorites, like the chapchae or bulgogi. I love bulgogi. Meat jun is a favorite as a kid. That's like scrambled egg batter over marinated beef strips. Really good. Of course, who doesn't love kalbi? I mean, you got it right. You gotta get some kalbi in there. And all that stuff, the kimchi fans, all that good stuff. Something about Korean rice too is so good. Those little silver bowls, it's just hot and steamy, and it's sticky too. It comes out in bowls and clumps. You can really, even if you're not good with the chopsticks, you can really eat it with the chopsticks. I'm getting myself so goddamn hungry here. Can you tell? Your boy is almost 30 pounds down from where I started. I know it doesn't look it. I got Gomi face. I look the same in all these Avies, but yeah, it's really good. But yeah, Jose Aldo, please peep and share my piece, guys. I don't expect you to agree. I ranked top 11 UFC and WEC performances. I used some tweets, so hopefully you can share and follow some of the people that I use tweets, like Ocelot MMA, the Miguel Classes of the world, anyone else in there. Hopefully, I appreciate the tweets that were put out there. Of course, I use some of my own that I've done and put together as well. Just to better help illustrate these moments, whether I'm talking about the defense of Jose Aldo and his takedown defense. I talk about a lot. Everyone talks about his leg kicks, right, in the WEC days, like the Blue Cage Aldo and the leg kicks. And I rewatched it. It wasn't his leg kicks. It was his leg kicks, obviously. Brookins obviously favor. But what a quiet key to Blue Cage Aldo? It was his knees and his body work. Really go look at it. The knees and the body work. From that Rolando Perez finish, like after that, I think like his subsequent 3 or 4 finishes in a row in the WEC after that WEC 38 appearance opposite Perez, they're all set up from knees, whether they're to the body or to the head. And in that Mike Brown finish, we all think about the jiu-jitsu, and that's what's usually posted, right? But if you actually go back and watch the fight, not the tweets and stuff, like he is brutalizing Mike Brown with body work. And I'll probably get shit for putting that Brown fight ahead of the Faber fight, spoiler. But I just feel like Mike Brown's brief WEC title reign, doesn't get the love it deserves. And therefore that fight does not get the love it deserves. It really was a complete Aldo performance. That was just something I noticed. And I don't know who it was, Ocelot, Miguel, or someone made like a reference, a kind of a loose reference in the tweet as far as Aldo being our Duran. But I make a lot of comparisons to Roberto Duran's fight with Iran Barkley. Again, rewatched The Natural last night. Rewatching a guy in his mid-30s making a comeback after deciding to pick up the game out of nowhere, right? We're trying to watch more the inspirational performances than the old guy getting shit kicked like most of the time that happens, right? Watching Duran come back and just one of the best post-prime performances against Iran Barkley. And you see a lot of that in Jose Aldo, whether it's the left hook that had his name on him, in that first half of that Chad Mendes 2 fight in UFC 179, or Aldo's one of his best prime, one of the best post prime performances in MMA against Rob Font. That had a lot of Iran Barkley to it, as far as Aldo really having to rely on his fight IQ to pull out the power shots and counter the lead hand of Font throughout the contest. I mean, one of my top 8 jabbing performances in the UFC is Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar, right? I mean, the guy is just so much. The leg checking performances, that shit. I mean, he has these performances that, from the Rob Font fight that shits on significant strikes, to the Pedro Munoz fight that shits on the leg kicks landed department. And I'm not trying to come at my guys Richard Mann, who are like the real statisticians of the world over there, but like, it just, this guy, that's how great this guy is. There's all these fantastic examples that stand the test of time, not just for his resume, but like just examples for MMA, the game, the stats, auditing the history books and the metrics we use it, elevating the techniques in which we use to employ it. Aldo fucking did it all. I mean, in a sport where pound for pound is overused for guys, just because they're on a win streak or like have a 0 for a small parrot next to their name. Great. Legend. Like, no, that's Aldo. You want to talk about streaks. Everyone talks about Usman or Khabib. Maybe they'll talk about Usman less because he lost, but maybe they'll still suck Khabib's D for his undefeated streak. Outside of Ali Bagoff, it was just pretty much dudes wheeled to him before the UFC, and didn't even make weight for a lot of those fights, pulled out of how many, whereas, Aldo, even if it was beatings like Max Holloway that he shouldn't have been taking on short notice to save the day, killing himself to make weight for those fights and more, multiple weight classes, always stepping up to the challenge, not waiting for the weather to be just right, no, an unbeaten streak from 2005 to 2015 for a decade, defending the title 9 times. 9 times across 2 organizations. World-class, legendary organizations. Elevating the game. Defense, offense, making defense undeniable in a game that is inherently offensive. Like, go fuck yourself. Jose Aldo, motherfuckers. Pound for pound legend. That is a pound for pound legend. A lighter weight class fighter doing technical, superb things that deserve recognition and distinction. The reason why pound for pound was brought about in boxing for, Sugar Ray Robinsons and the like, right? I mean, just seeing the gross misuse of pound for pound over and over again when you got guys like Jose Aldo. When we were lucky enough to have guys like Jose Aldo in this sport. Can't give him enough credit. I'm not talking too much about the retirement because we know how those things go. I'm sure he'll pop back up in some boxing. Or who knows, maybe some MMA. And hashtag MMA retirements, right? So I was really selective on that, but excuse to pay a Jose Aldo respect. Well, best Jose Aldo move, Ghost Phantom says. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. That's a tough one, man. I'll go hipster. I'll go that Rolando Perez, that timing. Just that timing. His proprioception. That's his move. Anything proprioception related. That's a cheat. I think I've listened to about 3 years worth of fights gone by now, working my way through the backlog. Nice. Shouts to Jack Slack. The Intercepting Knee, 2005 to 2006. There we go. Low kicks from hell during the WEC days. Absolutely. Who could forget? Is it the jab he developed after Conor KO'd him? Maybe a different style of jab. I mean, he's had different iterations. You know, you could argue it was kind of a different style of jab in the Pedro Munoz fight when I recently went back to watch that. When he worked with the Brazilian Navy or the Brazilian Marines. He even has a different style jab in that fight. There's a lot of different iterations, you know. I know around the Hominick time, when he first came into the UFC, is when he started going over to the Netherlands to work with like Dutch kickboxers. And then shortly after that, you really see him that Frankie Edgar fight is really where that jab really becomes a real connectivity piece and presence. It's had appearances for sure. Feeding the legendary single from Aldo is a legendary form of takedown defense. Great shout. Yes, sir. Jose Aldo used that rear leg pivot point for his rear leg to check Pedro's calf kick. Another great shout. Yep, that's right. Or Aldo hinging the knee. That's right, hinging the knee to make the calf kick completely miss. Which, you know, tell that to the statisticians because they counted those ghosts. So, yep, a lot of Jose Aldo love. There's my Jose Aldo rant. We went long enough. 1 minute, 42 seconds. We'll end it before 1:45. Thanks for joining me. It'll be 1:30 for the audio version on YouTube or on podcast because I got to edit out the 15 minutes of my dumbass muting myself. Thanks for joining me here, folks. I'll post whatever plays I end up adding, but really right now it's just Mads Burnell. 2.5 units at plus 100 for him inside the distance. Looking for some chalk to pair him up to. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll sprinkle on some round 2. Romero, maybe I won't. But we'll see at Dan Tom MMA. Daniel Tom MMA on YouTube. Like and subscribe, even though I don't deserve it for the beginning. Dan Tom MMA on social platforms. At the PYN podcast on all social platforms. Like and subscribe. Doesn't hurt. I'll do Amazon reads next week. Appreciate you guys going to mixedmartialanalyst.com, clicking through the Amazon or the On It links. Of course, secure PayPal banners for those who want to donate to this free show. To the right, toggle to the right. Of course, those same links will be in the link tree at Dan Tom MMA on Twitter. All right, guys, good luck with your picks and plays this weekend. Thanks for joining me in the chat. Like the video if you haven't already. And always protect your neck.